You have been told the exact same story your entire life. Your parents told you this. Your grandparents told you this. Every financial guru on traditional TV has repeated this exact same script. Renting is just throwing money away. You're paying someone else's mortgage. The only way to build real generational wealth is to buy a house as soon as humanly possible. For decades, the American dream has been defined by a white picket fence, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and a deed with your name on it. We have been conditioned to believe that home ownership is the ultimate financial finish line, and if you're still renting in your late 20s or 30s, you're somehow failing at adulthood. But I'm here to tell you that this piece of traditional advice is completely mathematically broken. In the modern economy, blindly following the renting is throwing money away narrative is one of the fastest ways to destroy your financial future. If you're feeling completely locked out of the housing market right now, if you're looking at skyrocketing interest rates, astronomical down payment requirements, and home prices that seem completely detached from reality, I have incredible news for you. You're not failing, you're not falling behind. In fact, renting might be the absolute smartest financial decision you can make right now. Today, I'm gonna tear down the greatest financial myth of our generation. I'm gonna show you the brutal hidden math of homeownership that real estate agents will never tell you. I'm gonna prove exactly why renting is not throwing money away, and I'm gonna show you how you can use the strategic advantage of renting to build vastly more wealth than the people who are currently trapping themselves in a 30-year mortgage. Let us start by completely destroying the illusion of the monthly payment. When people compare renting to buying, they always make the exact same elementary mistake. They look at their rent, say $2,500 a month, and then they look at a mortgage calculator online that says a mortgage payment would also be $2,500 a month. They think, well, the payments are the same, so I might as well buy and build equity instead of throwing my rent money away. This is the most dangerous financial trap you can fall into. When you rent an apartment, your rent is the absolute maximum amount you will pay for housing. That month, if the roof caves in, if the water heater explodes, if the property taxes go up, you do not pay a single cent more. You pick up the phone, you call the landlord, and it becomes their problem. Rent is the ceiling of your housing cost. When you buy a house, your mortgage payment is the absolute minimum amount you will pay that month. Your mortgage is just the base entry fee for the privilege of homeownership. When you own a home, you're stepping onto a financial battlefield of unrecoverable costs. Let us talk about what those costs actually are, because the banks and the realtors love to hide them. First, you have property taxes. In many states, property taxes are astronomical and they never go away. Even when you completely pay off your 30-year mortgage, you will still be paying thousands of dollars a year to the government just to keep your house. If you do not pay them, the government will take your house. Next, you have homeowners insurance, which has skyrocketed globally due to climate events and corporate greed. Then you have private mortgage insurance, or PMI, which you're forced to pay if you cannot put down a massive 20% down payment. But the biggest unrecoverable cost, the absolute silent killer of home ownership, is the interest on your mortgage. Because of the way mortgage amortization is structured, for the first 10 to 15 years of a 30-year loan, the vast majority of your monthly payment goes directly to the bank as pure interest. You're barely touching the actual principal balance of the loan. Imagine you buy a modest $500,000 house at a 7% interest rate. You put down 10%, so your loan is for $450,000. Over the life of that 30-year loan, you will pay over $628,000 in pure interest. Let that sink in. You bought a $500,000 house, but you ended up paying over $1.1 million for it. That $628,000 in interest does not build equity. It does not go into your pocket when you sell the house. It goes directly into the bank's profit margin. When you combine the massive interest payments, the property taxes, the insurance, the closing costs, and the inevitable maintenance, because yes, when you own a house, you will easily spend 1 to 2% of the home's value every year fixing broken pipes, replacing the roof, and maintaining the yard, you realize a terrifying truth. A homeowner is throwing away just as much, if not more, money on unrecoverable costs as a renter. The renter throws their money to a landlord, the buyer throws their money to the bank, the government, the insurance company, and the plumber. Renting is throwing money away is a complete myth designed to shame you into taking on massive debt. Now, let us talk about the second reason renting is vastly superior in the modern economy. Absolute flexibility. We live in an era of unprecedented economic volatility. The days of working for a single company in your hometown for 40 years and retiring with a gold watch are completely over. When you buy a house, you're hammering a massive financial anchor into the ground. You're tying yourself to a specific zip code, a specific job market, and a specific local economy. If an incredible job opportunity opens up across the country that offers a 40% pay increase, but you just bought a house, you're trapped. Selling a house is incredibly expensive. You lose roughly 6 to 10% of the home's value just in closing costs and realtor commissions. If you have only lived in the house for a few years, selling it will likely result in a massive financial loss. When you rent, you possess the ultimate financial weapon, mobility. A renter is financially agile. When a lease is up, a renter can aggressively pursue geographic arbitrage. They can pack up and move to a city with a booming job market, lower taxes, or a significantly cheaper cost of living. They can constantly position themselves to capture the best economic opportunities in the country. While the homeowner is completely stuck in a fast-changing economy, the ability to pack a bag and move is a wealth-building superpower. But the most important part of this entire argument, the exact mathematical reason why renters can become vastly wealthier than homeowners, comes down to opportunity cost. When you buy a house, you're forced to lock a massive amount of capital inside four walls. You have to drain your savings to come up with a $40, $50, or even $100,000 down payment. Once that money is locked in the house, it is completely illiquid. It is dead equity. It does not produce cash flow. It does not pay you dividends. It just sits there trapped in the drywall. Now, look at the renter. A strategic renter does not need a massive down payment. They do not have to pay thousands of dollars in closing costs. They do not have a separate emergency fund dedicated to replacing a $10,000 air conditioning unit. Because the renter's housing costs are fixed and capped, they have immense control over their cash flow. Here's the secret formula that completely destroys the homeownership narrative. Rent and invest the difference. Imagine two people, John and Sarah, both of them have $50,000 saved. John decides to follow traditional advice. He uses his $50,000 as a down payment on a house. His total monthly housing costs, including the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and the inevitable maintenance, comes to $3,500 a month. Because his housing costs are so high and his $50,000 is gone, John has almost no money left over to invest. He is house poor. Sarah decides to rent. She finds a great apartment for $2,500 a month. Because she did not buy a house, she still has her $50,000 in cash. Furthermore, because her rent is $1,000 cheaper than John's total homeownership costs, she has an extra $1,000 in cash flow every single month. Sarah takes her initial $50,000 plus her extra $1,000 a month, and she aggressively deploys it into the stock market. She buys broad market index funds that track the top 500 companies in the economy. Unlike John's dead equity trapped in a house, Sarah's money is highly liquid, highly diversified, and historically compounds at an average of 8 to 10% over the long term. Over the next 20 or 30 years, John's house will slowly appreciate in value, perhaps at a historical average of 3 to 5% a year. He will eventually pay off his mortgage and own a valuable asset. But Sarah's wealth will absolutely detonate because she kept her money liquid, avoided the unrecoverable costs of homeownership, and consistently invested her surplus cash flow. The power of compound interest will push her stock portfolio into the millions of dollars. Her liquid wealth will vastly outperform the equity John built in his single illiquid asset. This is not a theory. This is historical mathematical fact. The stock market historically outperforms real estate appreciation over the long term, especially when you factor in the massive holding costs of maintaining a physical property. The strategic renter, the one who possesses the discipline to actually invest the money they save by not owning a home, will build an absolute financial fortress while the homeowner struggles to replace their aging roof. We also have to discuss the massive psychological burden of homeownership. When you buy a house, you're taking on a second, unpaid part-time job. You become the property manager, the landscaper, the plumber, and the general contractor. Your weekends are consumed by trips to the hardware store. Your mental bandwidth is drained by constantly worrying about what is going to break next. Every scratch, every leak, every strange noise the furnace makes becomes a source of financial anxiety. Renting offers psychological freedom. When you rent, your time is entirely your own. You do not spend your weekends mowing the lawn or cleaning the gutters. You spend your weekends building a side business, learning high income skills, or actually enjoying your life. Your mental energy is not tied up in property maintenance. It is entirely focused on increasing your earning potential and growing your investment portfolio. The value of your time and peace of mind is immeasurable, and renting gives you that time back. Now, this does not mean that buying a house is always a terrible idea for everyone. There's a very specific scenario where buying a house makes mathematical sense. If you have completely stabilized your career, if you know with absolute certainty that you want to live in the exact same neighborhood for the next 10 to 15 years. If you have a massive emergency fund already built, if you're already investing heavily in the stock market, and if the monthly cost of owning a home fits comfortably within 25 to 30% of your take-home pay, then yes. Buying a house can be a reasonable lifestyle choice. Notice I called it a lifestyle choice, not an investment. You should buy a primary residence because you want the stability, you want to paint the walls, whatever color you choose, and you want a specific school district for your children. You buy a house for utility and comfort. You do not buy your primary residence because you think it is a magic ticket to wealth. If it happens to appreciate in value, that is a bonus, but it should not be the core pillar of your retirement strategy. The problem is that 90% of the people rushing out to buy homes right now do not meet those criteria. They are stretching themselves incredibly thin. They are draining their entire entire savings to scrape together a minimal down payment. They are taking on monthly payments that consume 50% of their income. They are trapping themselves in a state of extreme financial fragility entirely because society convinced them that renting is for losers. You have to break free from the narrative. The system profits immensely when you buy a house. The real estate agents get their commission. The banks get decades of massive interest payments. The local governments get endless property taxes. The entire industry is a multi-trillion-dollar machine designed to convince you that you must participate. They use shame and peer pressure to force you onto the property ladder. When your friends or family ask you when you're finally going to buy a house, you need to smile and confidently tell them that you're choosing not to. You need to understand that while they are bragging about homeownership at dinner parties, they are secretly stressed about their mortgage and the inevitable $5,000 repair bill waiting around the corner. You need to take pride in the fact that your wealth is quiet, liquid, and compounding aggressively in the background. The strategic choice to rent is a rebellion against financial conventional wisdom. It is a calculated mathematical decision to prioritize liquidity, mobility, and compound interest over the illusion of the white picket fence. If you can master the discipline to actually rent and invest the difference, you will build a level of wealth that your house poor peers will never understand. But recognizing that renting is a powerful strategy is only the very first piece of the puzzle. The entire rent and invest the difference formula completely falls apart if you do not know exactly how to execute the invest portion. If you take the money you save from renting and leave it in a checking account or blow it on depreciating liabilities, you will end up with absolutely nothing. You have to know exactly how to deploy that surplus cash into the markets so it creates a snowball of generational wealth. To ensure that your strategy actually works, you need to understand the precise mechanics of building a completely automated, hands-off investment portfolio. You need to know exactly which assets to buy, how to minimize your taxes, and how to protect your money from market volatility. To get the exact step-by-step blueprint on how to turn your liquid cash into an unstoppable financial engine, click on the video appearing on your screen right now. It will walk you through the entire investment process from zero to your first major milestone. But before you do that, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss another strategy to completely optimize your financial future. Okay, I will see you over there.